Very few series have the cultural staying power that Naruto has been able to maintain over the years. From fanfics to fashion lines, our big orange boy has affected millions of people around the world in many different ways since his debut in 1999. For many of us, myself included, Naruto was our gateway into anime as a medium and close to the entire reason we're even here right now. I love Naruto, wholeheartedly, flaws and all, and while it might not be my quote-unquote #1 anime, it's by far my most influential and important one on a personal level. But the thing that keeps me coming back to Naruto by far the most is its anime openings. And apparently I'm not the only one. Back in October 2018, Crunchyroll uploaded a video of the first Shippuden OP, 11.5 years after it first aired and over a year after the show itself ended. And that video has over 11 million views. That's the kind of power this series still has. Now, I'm not here to say that Naruto has the best openings in all anime, just that they're incredibly significant to me personally. If you want to know what kind of person I am, I have the proud badge of honor of watching every single episode, fillers included, of Naruto and Shippuden and never skipping the opening. So it's no wonder that all 29 openings are forever ingrained into my frontal lobe. But for something so important, we sure spend very little time focused on it, generally just a minute and a half every episode. And that got me thinking. How great would it be to devote as much time as needed to just one individual OP, honoring it not as a passing intro to a story, but as the main event, spending time discovering new things and fleshing out the background of something that I deeply love. If you didn't already guess, this video series is the result of those feelings. This is hopefully the start of a journey that will help me, and I hope you, look at Naruto just a bit differently and appreciate its openings a little bit more. At the moment, I'd like to be able to cover all 29 Naruto openings in their own individual videos, as each brings a little something different to the table, and I want to be able to honor each and every one properly, even the ones I don't like. So if you're watching this in the future, hopefully you have plenty of these to binge through. If not, I am truly sorry. Also, this video will be full spoilers for Naruto because I feel like that's the best way to fully examine an opening. But most of these points will come in during the visual section exclusively if you still want to learn about the song. One more thing before we get started, I just want to make it clear that I am not fluent in Japanese, so for a lot of the background information and more importantly, the song lyrics, I'm relying on secondhand translations. It hopefully shouldn't be an issue, but bear with me just in case. And now with all of that out of the way, 3, 2, 1... Make some noise! Naruto Shippuden Opening 1, Heroes Come Back, made its official debut in Episode 1 of Naruto Shippuden on February 15, 2007, coming 8.5 minutes into the first episode after perhaps one of the greatest cold openings of all time, previewing Episode 51 and even dropping Madara's name as a specter to sit in the back of the mind of the audience. The opening had to follow up the first Naruto canon content on television since May 18, 2005, almost 2 years of filler. Can you imagine how hard that cold opening must have hit for people watching weekly since the beginning? But the more important moment for us is that glorious cut from Sasuke's eyes to the first ever Naruto Shippuden OP. The first thing that anyone would notice upon seeing OP1 for the first time is that it's nothing like its predecessors. It's not the driving guitars of Asian Kung Fu Generation, the raw energy of Flow, or the smoothness of Sambo Master. It's entirely its own thing, and that's thanks to the incredibly talented hip-hop group Nobodyknows Plus. However, the band that would eventually provide us with Naruto's comeback anthem is a bit different than the one that originally formed in January 1999 in Nagoya, Japan. Initially Nobodyknows, without the Plus, the three-man team of DJ Mitsu, G-Tun, and Crystal Boy produced a few mini records in 2000 and 2001, first charting locally in Nagoya and then on the Oricon indie charts. This level of success got them a contract with Sony Music Entertainment in early 2002 and an official debut a year later. Equally as important in 2002, Mitsu formed a second group called Wakaba Juku, with members Yasu Ichiban, Hidden Fish, and Nori da Funky Shiburasasu, whose name I do not know how to pronounce and I will be referring to as Nori for the rest of this video. After Nobodyknows signed with Sony, it became increasingly harder for Mitsu to produce songs for both groups, so in June 2003 they merged together to officially form Nobodyknows Plus. 1 year after that, now a 6-member group, they had a top 5 single and a #1 album in Japan, selling upwards of 800,000 copies of their debut full-length record, Do You Know? If you've heard another one of their songs, it's undoubtedly the top single off that album, Kokoro Odoru, which released in May 2004, placed 5th on Oricon, spent 46 weeks on the list, and was used as the second ED for SD Gundam Force. If there's one thing you take away from this section, it should be that that song is incredible and you should go listen to it. Now, I think it's wildly unfair to say that Heroes Come Back was their last big hurrah, but its inclusion in Naruto in 2007 certainly came at the peak of their powers. They were coming off of 5 straight top 10 singles, that #1 album, as well as yet another top 10 album in late 2005, and a successful countrywide tour of Japan in 2006. Despite that though, Heroes Come Back would prove to be their last top 20 single ever. It peaked at 17, and the album it's on, Vulgar Rhythm, only topped out at 32, so their mainstream power was already fading midway through 2007. Founding member G-Ton also voluntarily left the band in 2007, just before the official release of Heroes Come Back, but after it appeared in Naruto for the first time. He doesn't feature on the song at all though, so luckily for me there's no confusion here, but I thought it was worth mentioning nonetheless. The band would go on to produce 2 more full-length albums in 2013 and 2017, as well as a best of album in 2009, but none would garner the popularity that they had in the mid-2000s. Still, given the incredible life these men have led since, I can't imagine they're too beat up about it. DJ Mitsu has continued to produce music in and out of Nobodyknows. He founded his own record label, runs a sound studio, and helps young artists from Nagoya get started with the Nagoya Pop-Up Artist Project. Hidden Fish, who's changed his name multiple times since 2007 and now goes by Hakoroman Half-Rice, owns a bar in Nagoya. Yasu Ichiban has done some solo work and also owns an izakaya. Crystal Boy has also had a solo career and runs a fashion shop, and finally there's Nori. He is currently a farm manager at the Nagakute City Aichi Prefecture Farm and the stadium MC for the Japan Rugby Top League. This coming after 8 years as a professional wrestler. I don't know what you all thought you were getting into when you clicked on this, but now you know that the guy who raps the verse when Gaara is on screen in the first Naruto Shippuden opening was also a Japanese professional wrestler for 8 years. And to wrap all of this up, Nobodyknows were named Aichi Musical Ambassadors for the Aichi Prefecture in 2012, thanks to their influence and work in the area. This is all a very, very long way to pay respect to a group that has admittedly had a pretty big influence on my life in however small a dose. Sure, the opening's only used in 30 episodes, but I bet plenty of you can recognize the song the second it comes on. Still, none of this has anything to do with Naruto, except it does. I'll always love and appreciate anime and Naruto for introducing me to many different songs and artists, but it's also important to acknowledge that they've all done plenty of influential and amazing things before and after they crossed paths with us anime watchers. I guess the point of this incredibly thick section of this video is just to try and learn a little bit more about the people behind the things I love, and hopefully you do too. Nobodyknows Plus is not just the band for Shippuden OP1. They're a popular and influential Japanese hip-hop group, and it's no wonder that they were approached to be the ones to welcome Naruto back to Konoha. And what a job they did. I mentioned this earlier, but the thing about Heroes Come Back that stands out immediately is how different it sounds from every other Naruto opening. Most other shonen openings too, if we're being honest, and that's mostly due to DJ Mitsu's beat. It is the absolute backbone of this song and is what elevates the actual verse to a higher level. From the iconic opening beats, the guitar, it's instantly memorable and is capped off by a bass line that is just pure filth. It's my favorite part of the song, and I've admittedly replayed the Akatsuki section hundreds of times because of this. The actual vocal parts are split between Hidden Fish, Nori, and Crystal Boy. Yasu's verses from the full-length version were cut for the OP, and I'm mad because they're fire. Hidden Fish is our main MC here as he covers the opening of the song and the chorus parts, but all the other members do provide supporting vocals during the chorus, which is why it sounds so layered. His parts are fairly straightforward lyrically, particularly in that chorus, which has a good bit of English. but let's start at the top and run through his intro and chorus section real quick. The first couple lines are, "A voice heard in the distance gives me a hint, one by one like-minded people are standing up." And these are probably two of the most eye-opening lyrics for me and how they sync with the visuals. That first line is while Naruto is looking out into the distance. Easy. And then that second is when the other characters cut into the frame. It's really simple stuff, but it works in harmony so well. That second shot in particular, I never really liked that much. I thought it was kind of an odd, quick pan, but with full context, I think it's fantastic, and it finally makes sense. The next two lines after that are "Let's overturn all the everyday monotonous things. I'm ready, are you ready?" This obviously syncs well with Naruto smiling and then running off, but I also like to think of it as, hey, an episode of Naruto is starting, forget about your life for a bit. You can also more seriously take it as the change and joy our orange sun brings to other characters, or just simply going off on a special mission like they are in this arc. Finally, the verse is capped off by the section that used to hype me up the most. "A shiver spreads through my body, violently ringing stomping. Constantly stirring in me, it calls me, catching that unchanging, never wavering, come on." So I used to think Naruto got the short end of the stick here, and visually he still does, but his section being "constantly stirring in me, it calls me" is pretty good for someone that has a tailed beast inside of them. For the record, Sakura gets "violently ringing stomping," which is perfect, and Kakashi gets "a shiver spreads through my body," which is fine. But when he pulls out the Sharingan, it's on Shindo, which in this case is to loosely mean shiver or vibration, but it also has another meaning with different kanji, prodigy or wonder child. Am I reading too much into this? Yes, but I still think that's fun that it's Anbu Prodigy Kakashi on screen for it. The Naruto logo gets the last part about unchanging, never wavering, which surely refers to the show's release schedule. Jokes aside, that's obviously a great line for Naruto as a character. On to the chorus, the section everyone knows by far the best. Luckily for us, it's pretty on the nose lyrically, with the first half being, "Everybody stand up, today's the best time to get up, before my eyes you still don't stop, Speed Hunter, everyone is a victim to that attraction, yeah, come on." I really like that attraction line when it's used later on, culminating in the glimpse of four-tailed Naruto. I think it really strongly fits there as he's getting wooed by an attraction to power, but elsewhere I'll just chalk it up to the attraction of wanting to be a hero. That's how the whole verse reads to me, to be honest. We're standing up either to be heroes or because the hero is back and a hero won't be stopped for anything. Speed Hunter throws me off here, but it does fit nicely with the speedy animation in the first section. I've seen alternate translations of this section with "You're a speed hunter, you can't be stopped, you're a hit, everyone's watching you," which I suppose works a lot better in English, but if I take time sifting through differing translations, we'll be here for literal hours. Both translations essentially convey these same heroic ideas. The second half of the chorus, I'm sure you know, but it's "Everybody hands up, it's the highly anticipated heroes come back, hold up your fingers and count down, let's go, 3, 2, 1, make some noise." Unintentionally, the funniest thing here is the first time the line "it's the highly anticipated heroes come back" is actually said, Neji is on screen. This is of course remedied at the end when it's said with Naruto right in the center, but I get a good chuckle out of that. This is obviously the titular line here, particularly for our Naruto purposes, as it's proclaiming that Naruto is finally back, on our TVs and in the village for the first time in over 2 years. Everything else is hype for that, with the 3, 2, 1 countdown being this opening's signature moment. Moving along, I do think all the actual verses in this song, even when haphazardly translated into English, are really good. I have some restraint though, so I'm going to focus on the parts in the actual opening, but know that all these guys can write. The way the opening is structured actually matters here too, as they didn't just pull the first 2 verses and call it a day. It's actually a part of verse 5 and then verse 8 from the full song that form the meat of this opening. And that's important because they actually took the time to choose lyrics that fit the show's overall themes and fit the purpose of this opening. That doesn't always happen. Our first set of lines comes courtesy of Nori's incredible, deep, gravelly voice during Gaara's extended shot. If there's something you remember from this opening outside of "make some noise," it's surely his voice. His verse is, "Are you ready for a few risks? You have to get up no matter how many times you fall. Get it on." It's not some conspiracy, just a paper-thin session. The pent-up feelings turn into a crystal. So our most Naruto line here is easily, "You have to get up no matter how many times you fall," which is sort of a theme throughout the song. It's about the hero coming back, but it's also about you, or Naruto, becoming the hero. Taking some risks to get out of your comfort zone and crystallizing how you've been feeling into action. It's all about your own personal will. There isn't some dark conspiracy running against you, which in the context of Naruto is an incredibly ironic line, but the point about effort and becoming a hero do stand true throughout the show. Also, this is not how it works in the full version, but in the OP, that crystal line leads right into Crystal Boy's verse, and that's just such a cool transition whether they meant it or not. His verse that follows is, "The rising cheers will become your courage, so stand up now no matter how much pain you feel. But in the end, I'm sure you'll laugh. Everything will be swept away in victory and cheer." Now this
is to go even further beyond.
This is extremely Naruto. The people supporting you will lend you courage, fight through the pain, and in the end will be victorious. I mean, this verse can just describe Naruto's entire character arc. It's really well used here. It matches up with the visuals too, the characters yelling out and then ending on Naruto's closed fist as he assumedly stands back up. After this, the song repeats the chorus a few times and we're on to the episode. In terms of judging how well this song truly fits as a Naruto opening, I think it's perfect. Essentially, this is a personal hype anthem. It's all about pushing through doubt and weakness and, well, standing back up. Not actually waiting for a hero, but becoming the hero that's coming back to save everyone. If that doesn't perfectly describe Naruto, I'm not sure what else does. And that brings us to the final element in our stew here. In arguably the most Naruto component of all of this, the actual visuals. Shout out to 4x3 standard definition anime. 2007 was wild, man. To make matters even more cramped, this entire opening opted to put white bars on the top and bottom, which actually kind of fixes the aspect ratio, but also gives us a lot of blank space on the screen. It's something that's wildly inconsistent through all the standard def Naruto openings also, with No Boy, No Cry and Yura Yura doing it in Naruto and The Distance doing it in Shippuden, but none of the other ones doing it. It shouldn't really affect how we view this opening, but it's an interesting novelty, I suppose. Now, in terms of the physical visuals, I think OP1 manages to stand out from the other Shippuden openings simply by not really committing to an overarching style. Aside from the bits of Naruto in the desert at the beginning and the end, the shots don't really link up all that directly. This isn't to say that it's disjointed, I think it flows quite nicely, it's just that every shot provides us with something new and different. I think the opening shot is perfect for setting the tone of the whole thing, with Naruto only visible from the back and walking towards the horizon. It's a new day for the series, Shippuden is starting and Naruto is back. It also starts and continues a long tradition of the openings having shots way more beautiful than the actual show. They're also playing just coy enough with us not showing Naruto in full right away. That of course changes a few seconds later when we get that wonderful shot of his perfect jawline and new headband. But it's really the relationship of that shot with the ones before it that is the most intriguing thing for me here. It's preceded by this selection of Iruka, Sakura, Gaara, and Sasuke, so 4 people important to Naruto opening their eyes slowly. Artistically, it's great on its own with the different angles and monochromatic color for each character. But it isn't just those 4 characters that lift their heads and open their eyes. Naruto does the exact same motion right afterwards, and he's the only one not in a dark background during it, leading me to believe that those shots are Naruto thinking about those characters. He then ends with Sasuke, because of course he does, which is why he's not smiling when he opens his eyes until after the rest of the main cast cuts in and reminds him of what he does still have. It's the only explanation I can come up with for why Iruka is front and center here, as he's not a big part of this arc. I hope it's true because it really works well symbolically. The last part of this first section is the title card, and I covered this a bit earlier, but Naruto by far has the least cool pose here. Kakashi gets his kick-ass kunai spin in the Sharingan, Sakura front flips down and punches the screen right on stomping too, and Naruto kinda does a weird backflip and shadow clone sign. For the record, Sakura is my favorite of the three, but Naruto really did get shafted here. Anyway, this is the best way they've introduced the Shippuden tagline at any point in the series, which I guess makes sense as it would have been an important distinction this early on. The section after this is where I think the uniqueness of the visuals really shines. It's not often shows go off-model in an opening, but these running shots are a great example of how to do it. It's simple looking, but translates the speed at which they're running better than a normal animated shot would. The single color also allows for this simplicity to shine. Even the final panel with all the on-model characters jumping in and out still maintains the feeling of speed thanks to that backdrop. I wish this kind of stuff pervaded more of Shippuden's OPs, but it's unfortunately something that would generally stay just in the show's EDs moving forward. This second section ends with perhaps the goofiest moment of Naruto counting down and telling us to make some noise, with a thumbs down for some reason. I never really liked this part when I first watched the show, but it has grown on me, at least in its corniness. But don't let it distract you from these absolutely stunning black and white stills. Particularly the Kankuro and Tamari one where they're reflected in the water, and the creepy Orochimaru one. An underrated part of this is actually if you were an anime only, this would have been your first glimpse at all the post-time skip designs, so that's fun. So that was a lot, and we're only 50 seconds into the opening. But luckily for you, or unluckily depending on how much you want to continue listening to me ramble about this, I think the second half here is a lot more by the book than all the stuff we just covered, and it starts with that Gaara shot. In the base version of this opening, it's easily my least favorite part. It's 10 seconds of Gaara just kind of sliding across the screen and then reaching out. Obviously this arc is about Gaara, so I get it, and symbolically the end of the shot is really good as he disintegrates in the sand before it starts pouring into Naruto's hand in the next shot. It shows that he's the one they're chasing after in this arc, and eventually that he dies. But everybody kind of just forgets about that because he comes back anyway. I just wish they had put these themes forth a bit more creatively. Later on in the arc, the shot gets a bit better as they add in silhouette fighting scenes from the arc behind him instead of bland colors, but the point remains. I kind of feel the same about the next shot too, to be honest, but it's better once I realize that that was Naruto's hands, not Gaara's. Everybody calling out for Gaara with Naruto being the most adamant is a nice touch though. And as we covered earlier, his clenched fist is him standing back up, and it works great with the song. The Akatsuki shot is nothing to write home about now, I mean all 10 of them aren't even there, but I can't imagine how crazy it must have been when it aired. I mean, who are these dudes next to Itachi and Kisame? Who's the big green guy? It's our first big look at the group until we see them all seal Shukaku away later in the arc. It's dynamic enough of a shot due to its sweeping nature, Itachi looks cool, Sasori looks menacing, and Deidara looks crazy. So it's perfect. The better version features Sasori's real body puppet though, just look how cool he is. 3 or 4-tailed form Naruto is a nice little teaser, and we're back at the beginning in the desert. Naruto's now smiling widely, he's back, everybody is ready to chase after Gaara, and we're ready to start the show. After one more make some noise, of course. Now, one of the fun things for the viewer in a long-running show like Naruto is that often the openings change during their run as things are revealed in the plot. In some cases there are huge changes, aka Shippuden OP 19, but in our case here, they're more subtle. There are 4 scene changes that happen by the end of this arc, and they're all fairly simple. There are more characters in the beginning cut-in, that fighting background behind Gaara, the ghetto statue and Sasori's real body in the Akatsuki shot, and finally more people in that final shot. There's also some small background color changes as well, and I don't really know why. Also, you guys know that the ghetto statue is actually called the demonic statue of the outer path, which is way cooler. I have no idea why they simplified it, but I just thought you should all know that. Hey, remember when it was just a mysterious statue the Akatsuki used and not a literal god? Simpler times, truly. For anyone else deeply familiar with Naruto OPs, you'll know that they don't always wait to show you things that are about to happen in the arc. Some are worse than others, and I'd like to document how good or bad each one is at the art of spoiling the show it's supposed to be hyping up. OP1 is pretty tame as far as Naruto openings go. You could argue that it gives away that this arc will take place in the desert and involve the hidden sand, but that ball starts rolling in episode 2 and is in full effect by episode 4, so I don't think that's really too big of a spoiler. I mean, they even hide the biggest reveal of the arc, Sasori's body, until it actually appears in the show, so there was clearly some level of care here. One of the advantages of this being the first opening is that it's easy to remember all the things that happened during this arc. And from Data Agara to Sasori Sakura to Kakashi pulling out the Mangekyo, none of the signature moments are given away here. And let's just say I'm glad that the non-signature moments don't appear here either. Now, if you're a crazy opening dissector like me, you could possibly figure out that something bad was going to happen to Gaara, but that wound up not even being that big of a spoiler anyway in the long run. There's also that split-second shot that shows that Kankuro gets injured, but at that point you're doing this to yourself. Anything else, just a fun teaser that would mean nothing to someone this early on in the show, and that makes this one of the strongest anti-spoiler Naruto openings out there. And as a maniac opening self-spoiler, I appreciate that greatly. I also want to take a moment to quickly pay homage to this incredible AMV-style version of the opening that was only used during the original broadcast of episodes 24 through 27 to advertise the first movie. Unfortunately, this sweet 240p video was all I could dig up of it, but I'm just glad I could prove it actually exists. It's just scenes from the movie roughly cut to Hiro's comeback, so nowhere near the level of the actual opening, but I just find it so funny that they aired this during the climactic episodes of this arc. I cannot imagine how confused some people were when this hit for the first time. Watching this is also reminding me that I actually like this movie quite a bit, and while it's not as good as Bonds or The Last, if you skipped over it, you should check it out. Okay, now that we've covered all our bases, looked at this opening from every possible angle, how do I actually feel about it? In some ways, I think the answer is almost a feeling of culture shock. It's honestly hilarious seeing some of this stuff in retrospect. Like, remember when people used kunai, or that Ninetales tease was mysterious and intriguing because we'd never seen anything past one tail form? Like, it's surprising just how pure Naruto this opening is. And as it is technically bridging the gap between Shippuden and Part 1, I suppose that makes sense. I do think that simplicity is one of the biggest themes in this entire opening, or at least the smallness of the scale. You know, Naruto is back, but it's still the same. The characters are older, but how much have they really learned? And I think that's almost ironic given that the other major theme is the fanfare about the hero coming back. It works really well together, and I think that's why this is such a good opening. Now, full disclosure, before I started working on this video, I wrote out my gut feeling ranking of all 20 Shippuden OPs just to see where I stood on each one. And Hero's Comeback was in my top 5, so I was already a big fan of this one regardless. I will say that I generally gravitate towards the songs I like the best, with the visuals being less important, but doing all of this has greatly deepened my appreciation for how well the song and animation really do flow together and form a complete idea. I also now have a tailed beast bomb-sized level of respect and admiration for Nobodyknows. Ultimately, deep down, I can't say my stance on this opening has changed all that much because I was high on it already. It will always be the hype anthem that welcomed me into the world of Shippuden and caught me completely off guard after a glut of guitar openings in Part 1. I'll always remember reacting to it as it came on after that cold open, and it'll always have a special place in my heart. There are only a few other Naruto openings that I think can even compete, so while OP1's legacy is secure, I'm excited to see if any of the other openings can potentially jump up to its level. But that's for another day and another time. What are your feelings or memories of this opening? How did you react when it first came on? Is this your favorite Naruto opening? Let me know down in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for watching. This video idea was more or less in the planning phase for about 2 years now, so I'm very happy to finally turn it into an actual watchable thing that I will hopefully be able to tweak and improve moving forward. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed this at all for more videos about Naruto like this one, seasonal opening videos, and anything else that appears in my very stable brain. I really did enjoy just getting to talk about one Naruto opening for about 30 minutes, so I hope you did too. That's it for opening 1, and let's just say next time, we're going to be talking about friendship.